Welcome to Origins Explained, where we discuss the dark and sinister origins of some of our favorite TV shows and movies. Today we look into the story and origins of Midsommar. Midsommar is a horror film that centers around a group of friends who travel to Sweden and partake of Midsommar, a celebration of summertime, life, and fertility. The story begins with Dani, a 20-something-year-old woman who is coping with the death of her family after her sister, who struggled with bipolar disorder, murders her parents and then commits suicide. This tragic event triggers intense panic attacks in Dani and negatively affects the already rocky relationship she has with her boyfriend Christian. Pelle, one of Christian's friends, invites him and their other friends Mark and Josh to a midsummer celebration in Pelle's ancestral commune, the Harga, in Sweden. Dani finds out about the trip and Christian reluctantly invites her along. When they arrive at the village, they meet an English couple, Simon and Connie, that were invited to the celebrations by Pelle's brother. They all partake in the community meal and ceremonies and take a psychedelic drug known as psilocybin at the request of the community. One of the first rituals they witness is an elderly couple slashing their hands and jumping off a cliff to their deaths. The group of friends are shocked, but an elderly woman named Siv explains to them that the ritual is considered perfectly normal according to the cultural beliefs of the Harga. Unfortunately, this is only the beginning of the horrors faced by Dani and her friends, as one by one they start disappearing as more rituals take place during the midsummer festivities. Simon's body is found ritually dismembered in what is known as a blood eagle. Christian is drugged and forced to participate in a fertility ritual, and Dani is chosen to participate in the Maypole dance. In the Maypole dance, participants dance until they collapse from exhaustion, and the last one standing is crowned May Queen, which turns out to be Dani. The cult then explains to Dani that they need to make 9 sacrifices to end the midsummer festivities. So far they have 8: Mark, Josh, Simon, Connie, and 4 members of the cult. As the May Queen, it is Dani's responsibility to choose the last sacrifice. She picks Christian, who is placed inside a disemboweled bear and taken to the temple to burn, marking the end of the midsummer celebrations. Midsummer is an actual celebration that takes place in Sweden and several other northern European countries. Unlike the movie, Midsummer takes place every year around the summer solstice. It is a celebration of summer because in Sweden and many other northern countries, winters are long, and the sun barely comes up, if at all. Thankfully, the real-life midsummer celebrations are not as bloody and deadly as the one we see in the film. However, many of the elements portrayed in the movie are based on real-life events and rituals. For example, in the movie, Christian finds Simon in the chicken coop with his back sliced open and his lungs spread out. This scene is based on a real-life ritual called the Blood Eagle. The Blood Eagle is a ritual execution that finds the victim in prone position, face down with their back straight, ribs severed from the spine, and lungs pulled through the opening to resemble a pair of wings. The Blood Eagle ritual appears in Norse literature and is described as a human sacrifice to the Norse god Odin. The history of the Blood Eagle can be traced back to the Viking era and can even be seen in the television show Vikings. Another ritual based in real life is the tradition of dancing around the maypole, which is linked to the Swedish folklore of Hargalaten. The folk tale comes from a Swedish town called Harga, not to be confused with the town from the movie, although the similar names might be more than just coincidence. The tale begins on a bright midsummer night, where young men and women have gathered for a barn dance. When the music stops abruptly, villagers look up and spot a stranger wearing a dark cloak and black hat, whose eyes burn bright. The stranger suggests playing the violin to a long dance where everyone must hold hands and follow him. As the stranger begins playing, everyone starts dancing, traveling through the village houses, unable to stop. A young man catches a glimpse of the stranger's feet and notices their hooves, realizing the stranger is the devil incarnate. The young man attempts to escape by holding onto a door frame, but his arms cut off when the door slams shut. The dancing continues until the devil leads the villagers up to the top of the Harga mountain, where he sits atop a twisted old pine tree. The villagers continue dancing until they die of exhaustion. The only thing remaining are their bones, which continue to dance until they wear down and turn to dust. The tale can be found in Swedish folk song called Hargalaten, or in English, the Hargatun. The last thing we're going to look at are the runes used throughout the movie and what they could symbolize. In the first ritual we see at the beginning of the 9-day-long celebration is the sacrifice of the elderly man and woman. Before jumping off a cliff, they slash their hands and smear their blood on a stone carved with runes. The blood-smeared rune on the left that looks like an R is called Doraido, which means journey and movement. The rune on the right, which looks like an upward-facing arrow, is the Tiwaz rune, which means responsibility and focus on the divine and their duty to God. In the maypole dance scene, Danny's dress has 2 runes, Raido and Degas. The Raido rune means journey, but in this case, because it's inverted, it signifies the opposite of the original meaning. In Danny's case, this could symbolize a lack of progression, as she seemingly gives in to the cult at the end of the film, or it could mean that she has come to the end of her journey. The second rune, Degas, looks like an hourglass, and it means evolving, transformation, and growth, which is what Danny is going through across the story. But since the rune is tilted, it might be signaling an inverted meaning. So instead of signifying growth and evolution, it could mean culmination or hopelessness, alluding to the end. When Christian is wearing a robe in preparation for the fertility ritual, his robe has the Tiwaz rune. The upward arrow symbol is based on the god Tyr, the god of warriors, who sacrificed his hand to a wolf to save his people. Since this means responsibility to the divine, his eventual death is the sacrifice symbolized here. Before the temple is set on fire, we see 2 runes, the diamond-shaped Ingus rune and the X-shaped Gebo rune, meaning fertility and gift, respectively. When 2 symbols are bound together like this, it generally means they have a shared meaning. The gifts, in this case, are the 9 human sacrifices they're making to their god by burning the temple with the people inside. When the temple is burned, it's supposed to purge the cult's evil, which could be interpreted as the cult being born again, hence the use of the fertility rune. And that concludes this episode of Origins Explained. If you liked this video, hit the like and subscribe button, and let us know in the comments which movie or TV show we should look into next time.